What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We're going to take a deep dive into UFC 276. We have Israel Adesanya going against Jared Cannoiner. Should be a very fun card. We have 12 fights on the card. We did, unfortunately, lose the Tate Murphy fight, so now down to 12 fights. And yeah, this card's really good. I think it's stacked top to bottom. Definitely looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking it through with Uncle Weezy with the chat as well. We're here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I've been on a bit of a losing streak with gambling lately, but looking at this card, UFC 276, from top to bottom, how could you not be excited for this craziness that's coming up on Saturday? So many fantastic fights on this card. Uriah Hall against Andre Munhoz is like the fourth fight of the night. This is going to be incredible. So I'm really looking forward to chopping this one up with you in the chat here today.
Absolutely. Cannot wait to get right into it. Before we do so, guys, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to quickly recap last night. Kind of a tough night for me and some others, but I saw some people did do really well. But yeah, for me, I kicked the night off with the JP Bays fight. Doesn't go to decision. I got it at plus 120. I put a half unit on it on Sunday. And then I added on another half unit on Monday. And I was about to add another half unit on it, I think on like Tuesday, but the line kind of got away from me. So that was my first hit of the night. I did have the Rachmanov wins inside the distance, 1 unit minus 130. And I had the Sarukian Gamrot over 2.5 rounds. And those were the wins. The losses were a half unit on Tafon and Chuku plus 100. Half unit on Brown Shalion. Fight doesn't go decision. Loss. Half unit on Brown inside the distance, plus 250, and then a half unit on Vieira inside the distance, plus 170, and then 1 unit on the under 1.5 in the Umar Manes fight, down 0.15 units. So very small loss, but a loss nonetheless. Yeah, definitely looking forward to getting it back this week. Weezy, how'd your night go last night?
Yeah, down 1.9 units. I didn't have a lot of action. I had 1 unit on the Demopoulos finish only prop, so that was a push because it went to decision. I had 1.5 units on the Sergey Morozov money line, so that cashed. I had 1.5 units on the Tafon and Chukwi money line. That did not cash. Not only did it not cash, he got his ass waxed in there. And then I had a 1.5 unit parlay with the money lines of TJ Brown and Thiago Moises. And I just want to say something right now. For going forward, Brady, I reserve the right to change the ass shaving of the week pick if I see these guys showing up with a shit haircut on Friday at weigh-ins, okay? Look, we got to talk about haircuts for just a minute here because we talk about fight IQ all the time, right? Fight IQ is very important. You don't want to bet on fighters that have bad fight IQ. Well, if you're coming in there with a bad haircut, that's a bad life decision, Brady, right? And a bad life decision, if you're making bad decisions while you're in the barber's chair, how are you going to make good decisions when you're in a cage in your underwear with another trained killer who's trying to take you down, who's trying to take your head off with big hooks? So when I see somebody showing up with a haircut like TJ Brown, and that haircut was unacceptable on so many different levels. A mohawk that's dyed blonde. It was just so bad. And I was sat there looking at it like, this is my most confident pick of the week. My most confident pick of the week is somebody who made that decision on purpose. It's not like somebody held him down, and taped him up and forced him to get that haircut. He's a grown man. He made that decision on his own. And I made the decision on my own as a grown man who does research to make that man the ass shaving of the week. And never again, Brady. It ends now. Bad haircuts mean I'm going on my channel on Friday night saying I'm changing my ass shaving of the week pick to somebody with more acceptable hair. Somebody like Josh Parisian, who went in there with a haircut that you could set your watch to, and look at what he did to Bedeau. He showed heart. He showed the ability to make good decisions in the cage. When he found out that when he got on top of Bedeau, that Bedeau couldn't do anything to him, he got him down again in the second round. Good haircut, good decisions. So we don't lose, Brady. We learn. And your Uncle Weezy learned a very valuable lesson yesterday, and that's you just stop betting on the bad fucking haircuts.
Absolutely. I mean, we see it time and time again, like Jimmy Crute with that mullet. We had Brendan Allen with his bad haircut as well. Like, I don't know what it is, Weezy, but these bad haircuts definitely do translate to bad fight IQ. And I'm with you. I'm convinced that that blonde hair that TJ Brown did come in with is not his natural hair color. So, and yeah, like Parisian setting an example. I mean, I saw the picture of him. I sent it to you. I was like, now I know why Parisian is favored in this fight. I mean, he looked good. He really did. And I do have to apologize to Josh Parisian as well. I did call him the worst heavyweight in the UFC, and that honor now goes to Alain Badeau. Congrats, Alain Badeau. You are officially the worst fighter in the UFC. Congrats. But we got a dono here, Tajik Bey. What is up, Tajik Bey with the dono? He also dropped a huge dono on Uncle Weezy's channel last Tuesday, a $99 dono. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Shout out to Tajik, the GOAT there. Let us shout out the chat real quick before we get started. We got Brandon in the chat, Dan Hamilton adjusted. We got Sean V, Ariel burner account. We got Uncertainty, Tajik Bey, Sage, DXJC. We got the local man, Shakes Fist. We got Bob in the chat, DXJC. We got Sun Tzu in the chat. Matt in the chat, Chris, thank you all for hanging out. We have Labyrinth UFC Breakdown in the chat, and let's keep going up. We got Alex Ramirez in the chat. We have Prince of Mischief in the chat, Mushroom, Justin, all you guys. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us on a Sunday. We got another donor here as well saying, Devin saying, thanks as always, my guys. The spreadsheet is dope. Yes, the spreadsheet is very dope, and you are dope as well, Devin. Thank you for the dono, and thank you for hanging out with us on a Sunday. So, Capper saying blonde isn't Nerdin Becke's natural color either. I don't know. It
was a better haircut, though. It was a better haircut. You know, I mean, the blonde, I don't think it works for Jalin Nuerdanbieke as well. I thought that was equally as bad of a decision. But look at the hair. You know, I mean, the haircut was actually acceptable. I don't know what TJ Brown was thinking with that thing, man. He looked awful.
Absolutely. We have to look out for the bad haircuts in this card here. So let's get into it, guys. Enough about the haircuts there. We got Julia Stoliarenko going against Jessica Rose Clark. We have Jessica Rose Clark, 34 years old, 5'5", with a 64-inch reach. Stoliarenko, 29 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach. Stoliarenko, she's going to be 5 years younger. Stoliarenko is also going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage as well. Jessica Rose Clark is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss against Jessica Ai, a decision loss against Pani Kianzad, a knockout win against Sarah Alpar, a decision win against Jocelyn Edwards, and a submission loss to Stephanie Egger. As far as Stoliarenko, she had a decision loss against Yana Kuntakaya, a submission loss against Julia Avila, and then a decision loss against Alexis Davis. So this is one where, yeah, I did officially retire from betting fights like these, fights where I'm super confident in Jessica Rose Clark, but how confident can you really be in a fight like this? This is one of those fights where I feel like Jessica Rose Clark should absolutely win this fight. I feel like on the feet, it's going to be Jessica Rose Clark all day. And I feel like Jessica Rose Clark can even get takedowns here, kind of like Alexis Davis did, and, you know, get takedowns, stay on top, stay safe. We did see Jessica Rose Clark get armbarred in her last fight. I do not like that. Julio Stoliarenko, in her wins, she's typically winning by armbar. I think like all but one of her wins come by armbar, so that's scary as well. But yeah, Jessica Rose Clark should win this fight, but it's not something I'm really running to the window to, because once again, I did retire from betting these fights, and once again, we have kind of a weird fight where Rose Clark should be better everywhere. So outside of an armbar from guard, I think Rose Clark gets this done and looks like a big favorite. But I don't know. I just in the back of my head, I mean, I have a feeling Julio could potentially pull it off here. Weezy, how do you feel about the first fight of the night here?
Yeah, it's you know, so I saw the line right when I saw the line, you know, pre-tape, you know, I always like, oh boy, Jessica's kind of cheap here, you know, coming off that last loss to Egger, you know, she's underpriced. She was minus 170 against Egger, you know, and then you're like, oh man, that fight against Egger was a real eye opener, man. I mean, that was pathetic fight IQ there, in my opinion. Yeah. So let's go through the numbers here, though. For the measurables, I got the advantage going to Stoliarenko. She's 5 years younger, 2 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage. The experience advantage goes to Clark. She's got 2 more pro fights, over 60 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more fights at the UFC level, and about 35 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I've got the old advantage going to Stoliarenko, actually, as Julia has got an 89% finish rate in 9 pro wins. All of those finishes are by submission. She is the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey, my friend. And while Julia has been finished in 2 of 6 pro losses, and Jessie has only been finished in 1 out of 7, Julia's never been finished in 4 UFC losses. And she's very tough and gritty with a huge heart. And Jessie's been finished in 1 of 3 UFC losses by armbar. So I give Julia the edge here due to the much better win rate by finish and to the superior durability at the UFC level. When it comes to the striking, the advantage goes to Clark. Both with the eye test and by the numbers, Clark's the better striker here. Positive 0.39 significant strike differential for Clark, while it's negative 1.52 for Stoliarenko. Clark is far more accurate and defensively responsible. Julia blocks punches with her face with that 44% striking defense, and neither one is recorded or been knocked down. So, not a lot of power going either way in either of their fights, but much better ratios for Jessie, and she's 12% more accurate and 15% more defensively responsible. So a nice striking advantage for Clark here. And then in the grappling, I'm giving the advantage to Clark, but hear me out. Clark's the far better wrestler and minute winner in the grappling exchanges. She's over 50% on her takedowns, and she outcontrols her opponents in control time positions 36% to 15%. So like almost 2.5 to 1 ratio. While Julia is 12.5% on her takedown attempts, and she's getting outcontrolled 49% to 7%. So by the numbers, Jessie's way more likely to win minutes in the grappling, way more likely to be able to, if she wants to get to the grappling, to be able to actually get it there with her wrestling. That being said, Julia is a very good moment winner on the ground, finishing 8 of her 9 wins inside the distance by submission. Clark got armbarred in her last fight, and that's a huge red flag going into this fight. The fight IQ was absolutely terrible there for Jessie. And in the strength of schedule, I'm giving the advantage to Stoliarenko as well here. And Stoliarenko's ratio is 1.09 compared to 0.86 for Clark. But at least Clark has wins against winning competition, while Julia is 0-4 in the UFC. So she's got nothing but losses. But that Stephanie Egger fight, what you don't want to do against a fighter like Egger who has that skill set, a judo, under 21 champion, if I remember correctly, in Europe, you don't want to be in the clinch with judo players. They've got really good trips, sweeps, reaps. They get an underhook and an overhook. They can do so many different things while their hips are close to you. And Jess put herself right there and started shooting for takedowns. But when she wound up getting into those clinch positions, it wound up being Egger getting the takedowns, Egger going for the submissions. And Jess was just going to be the much better striker in that fight. So the fact that she didn't take the path of least resistance and leaned on her wrestling, even though it was going to put her into very dangerous positions that she wouldn't have put herself into if she had kept that fight on the feet, that shows really bad fight IQ here. And knowing that she's going to be fighting Julia Stoliarenko, where that this woman, 7 of those 8 submissions are by armbar, so if you take this woman down and sit in her guard, you're going to put yourself into bad spots. But it seems like Jess has forgotten that she does come from a kickboxing base. She's been working on that wrestling, and it's getting very good. But you want to use that wrestling when it's putting your opponents in a less comfortable place, not in a more comfortable place. So I'm a little bit concerned with that performance in the Egger fight. It shows that Jessie doesn't necessarily know how to take the path of least resistance. And if you're going to lay juice on somebody, you want them taking that path of least resistance, man.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just gonna be a sweaty fight. Like even like if Jessica Rose Clark did come out here and fought a smart game plan, which a smart game plan for me would be, stuffing the takedowns of Julio Stoliarenko. Like Stoliarenko's wrestling is just non-existent. I will say she did land a nice takedown against Julia Avila, really well-timed takedown. But she got reversed right away and she's able to get back up. I mean, it seems like Stoliarenko just more comfortable off her back. She's going to be going out there. She's going to be pulling guard. And, I kind of have a feeling Rose Clark just follows her to the mat. So do I think Rose Clark can stay safe on top? Yeah, I do. But there is going to be that chance. There's going to be moments where Stoliarenko is going to be very live for a submission off her back. Like Stoliarenko, she's good at literally one thing, and that one thing is that arm bar. So I get why the line was where it's at. I get why Rose Clark is favored. She should absolutely be the minute winner there, whether it's in the striking and the grappling. But Stoliarenko is going to be threatening with submissions anytime the fight is on the mat, and that is what kind of scares me away from this fight. And like I said, these are fights that typically have burnt me in the past. So, and someone in the chat said it, Weezy. I mean, we have to question Clark's IQ, not only for the mistake against Egger, but, she has that face tattoo as well. So I don't, I don't know what's going on there with that, but I just don't know if I can trust her, man. So Rose Clark opened up, so you see, plus 175, open up plus 175 for some reason, and she's currently minus 140. Stoliarenko opened up minus 205. I don't know. Yeah, and she's currently
0-4 in the UFC. How the hell do you open her?
I don't know.
How does that make any sense at all?
I guess they maybe looked at, saw Egger got the armbar win. I mean, that would be the only explanation. But even then, like, Stoliarenko is not good. So yeah, Rose Clark minus 140, Stoliarenko plus 120. I feel like the line even gets wider throughout the week. I just don't really feel comfortable betting on this fight, to be honest. So this can be a pass for me, a stay away. I think some interesting props to look at, and we have some props out. Stoliarenko by submission. Stoliarenko right now inside the distance is plus 360. I think the submission prop could be interesting. And then Rose Clark by decision could be interesting as well. But I more than likely won't have anything on this fight. Is anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, Stoliarenko finish only prop would be very interesting because Jessica has only finished one of her 4 UFC wins and just about 45% of her pro wins, while Julia is finishing at an 89% rate. And, I think that Jess can win minutes anywhere in this fight. So, I mean, I think that her by decision would be the best way to get her from paying juice to maybe getting a little bit of plus money here. And then you just got to hope she doesn't take this girl down and just beat the shit out of her until the ref pulls her off. But, yeah, I could see playing that finish only prop on Stoliarenko, and it might be plus money. That might be interesting, but boy, I just don't want to have a lot of money on this fight, dude.
Absolutely. The fight goes to decision minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision plus 150. We got Low T City Ortega with the dono. Appreciate you saying, Weezy, who has the worst haircut on the card? And I was actually looking through the card to see if there were any bad haircuts. And I guess the only one that really stuck out to me was maybe Barberena with that mohawk, but I think he pulls it off well, actually. So not a ton sticking out for the haircut. Anything you see here, Weezy?
Dude, like Cerrone looked freaky at the last weigh-in, dude. He looked like all ashy and shit, and he looked all bald, and like the skin tone just looked really weird. Like he looked kind of like an alien. Like I think he should definitely grow hair back like as soon as possible. Because I saw him and I was like, "Oh God, Don, what happened, man?" It looked like he had been in a sandstorm and then just walked straight into weigh-ins. I don't know what that was, dude. Cannonier, no. Volkanovski, no. Holloway, no. Strickland, no. Pereira, no. O'Malley. It's got to be O'Malley, right? Because he's going to have colored cornrows. And yeah, it's probably got to be O'Malley, man. I got to think it's him.
I mean, people like that haircut, though.
Yeah, not me. But you know what? When it's not in the cornrows, I think it's pretty dope. He's got a good curly, beautiful head of hair. I think it's good stuff. But I just don't like the cornrows. But I know they got to do that when they're fighting, so it doesn't get in their eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll move on to the next fight here, and starting now. Every one of these fights are just phenomenal. We have Brad Tavares going against Dricus du Plessis. We have Tavares, who is 34 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. Du Plessis, he is 28 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. Du Plessis is 6 years younger, and he's going to have a 2-inch height advantage here. We take a look at their last few fights. Brad Tavares is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win against Krzysztof Jotko, a decision loss against Israel Adesanya, a knockout loss against Edmund Shabazian, a decision win against Antonio Carlos Jr., and then a decision win against Omari Akhmedov, showing very good takedown defense in both that junior fight and that Akhmedov fight as well. Dricus Duplessis, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Marcus Perez, won that fight by first round knockout, and then he knocked out Trevin Giles in the very first round. And this is a very exciting fight because we have Duplessis, who has a 100% finish rate in both his wins and his losses. He has never seen the scorecards in 18 professional fights. And then we'll talk about the numbers a little bit more, but Brad Tavares is not much of a finisher, only finishing 2 of his 20 UFC fights. So I think this is going to be an interesting way to play the time props. We'll talk about that soon. But as far as picking a winner here, it's kind of tough because I really like the experience, the level of competition of Brad Tavares. But Duplessis, this guy hits hard. His ground game is very good. I don't know if that's going to come into play here, but he's shown a ton of power, not only throughout his career, but especially in his last 2 fights. So, and Brad Tavares has shown that he could be knocked down. He could be knocked out as well. So, Weezy, really curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I like the measurables advantage for Duplessis being 6 years younger, having that 2-inch reach advantage, and he switches stances while Tavares is an orthodox fighter. So you like all those. They're all statistically significant advantages to have in that measurables category. The experience advantage goes to Tavares. That's not surprising, as he's got 7 more pro fights, 155 more minutes in the pro cage, 6 more years as a pro, 18 more UFC level fights. Dude, 250 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Tavares, a very experienced mixed martial artist here. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to Dricus here, as he's a killer be killed fighter, finishing 100% of his 16 pro wins and doing it, in a nice even way, as he's gotten 9 submissions and 7 knockouts. So he's dangerous everywhere. But he's also been finished in both of his pro losses, once by submission and once by knockout. But Tavares only has a 37% finish rate as a pro and only a 14% finish rate in 14 UFC wins. So only 2 wins out of 14 at the UFC level are inside the distance, and they're both by knockout. And Brad has been finished in 3 of his 6 UFC losses, all by knockout. So I do like Duplessis there for the finish stats and the durability. And in the striking, I'm going to give the advantage to Duplessis. Even though it's only a 2-fight sample size, Dricus' stats thus far are very impressive. He's got a better than 2-to-1 significant strike ratio, and his significant strike differential is 2.68 with 48% accuracy and 68% defense, and an almost 4% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. Tavares has really nice numbers, though, in a huge sample size, with a positive 0.42 significant strike differential, 4 knockdowns in 20 fights, and a 58% striking defense, although he's been knocked down more than he has knocked down his opponents. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to Tavares. Although Dricus' grappling stats thus far in the UFC are very good, there isn't much of a sample size. We haven't seen him face a takedown attempt yet at the UFC level. Tavares is excellent takedown defense and does a great job of keeping fights standing when his opponents want it on the ground. Brad's efficiency has been excellent in the grappling realm, and I think he'll be more likely to win minutes in the clinch and on the ground should the fight go there. But, these guys aren't really massively committed wrestlers, either one of them. And when it comes to the strength of schedule, it's Tavares. He's fought, beaten, and lost to the better, more experienced competition. So this is going to be a hell of a fight. It's a closely lined fight. With Duplessis, you love that power. You love that durability, or not the durability, but the ability to be able to finish fights in a number of different ways. And with Brad, you love that experience. You love the fact that he's fought the better brand of competition. You love the fact that, he can keep fights standing if he wants them there, and that if he wants to be on the ground, we've seen him attempt 59 takedowns in 20 fights. So he can shift around. He could be versatile, but we haven't really seen him attempting takedowns in this more recent version of himself. He's definitely a lot more happy to just stand and try to win minutes on the feet. Are you muted?
My bad. There we go. Yeah. So we see the line here. Duplessis opened up plus 110. He is now minus 120. And Tavares opened up minus 130. He is currently plus 100. And it's one of those fights, Weezy, where I feel like the minute winner in this fight could very well be Brad Tavares. I remember the debut of Duplessis against who was it, Marcus Perez. And Marcus Perez was actually having a lot of success early on in that first round, kind of marching him down. And then Duplessis landed that big shot and knocked him out. I feel like Tavares could have some of that same success there, but just what worries me is going to be the durability of Tavares. We've seen him knocked out several times in the UFC, and Duplessis has like very, very good power, sneaky power as well. Like some of these shots that are landing don't look like they're landing hard, but they're putting guys out bad. So I guess the way I'm going to be looking at playing this fight, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. So the fight doesn't go to decision, is -105. That line jumps off right at the bat because Duplessis has never seen a decision win or loss. So -105, I like that. But I guess the one thing that scares me away is Tavares' finishing ability. Any thoughts on that -105 fight doesn't go?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, Brady, bet the fight doesn't go because we have a killer be killed fighter here. Now, it might not come through, but it's, a lot of times when you got a killer be killed fighter, you got to pay up -200, -250. Shit, we just saw -750 for Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. I mean, to get a killer be killed fighter at -105 in a division that's finishing 55% of the time just on the aggregate long term for 3-round fights, it's kind of a smash spot. It's definitely on my list. If I can find it at that price, I'll be betting it for a unit. But like you said, that's mostly Duplessis' finishing equity when you're betting that fight. So I also think if the bookies if they don't catch that finish only prop for Dricus, maybe take Tavares decision only prop. But I mean, I could see Dricus winning minutes just as well as Brad does. Really good leg kicks with both legs. Like I say, he switches stances and he throws with serious power. But Brad's got really good low leg kicks of his own. He throws with power and he's got that Hawaiian toughness too.
Yeah, he does. Duplessis inside the distance open up +295. It's now +195. This is on 5 dimes. Tavares by decision is only +190. But yeah, like you said, the decision only prop is going to be interesting considering we've never seen Duplessis win a decision ever. And then the finish only prop, which I feel like they're absolutely going to be all over it, but that would be another way to look at it there. But yeah, it's a tough fight to call. I'm going to take Duplessis to knock out Brad Tavares with not a ton of confidence, but I think this guy's super dangerous, and I think he does find the chin at some point in this fight. Any props you wanted to talk about other than that, Weezy?
The fight doesn't go to decision is something I'm definitely looking at. The Duplessis finish only prop I'm looking at, and I think my official pick though is going to be Brad Tavares to win by decision. I really like Tavares. He's just fought. He's been tested. He's fought everyone. There's not a lot of fat in his game. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't throw dumbass spinning shit. He doesn't spam takedowns until he gets tired. He puts everything together really well, and he works the techniques that actually work at this level, and I love that. So I think that I think it's going to be a very good, very close fight, but I can't wait for this one. It's a banger.
Absolutely, man. Local man saying no, Dricus sub hype. I'd lean towards no just because of Brad Tavares' takedown defense against Akhmedov and Junior. I mean, that was the best his takedown defense ever looked like. It seemed like it was impossible to take this guy down, and I don't think that Duplessis has the best wrestling. I think his grappling's phenomenal, but I just don't know if it touches the mat. Any thoughts on that, Weezy?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. You saw Tavares in his last 2 fights against Akhmedov and Carlos Jr. just really show the ability to be like, if I want this on the feet, it stays on the feet. So if a guy like Antonio Carlos Jr. isn't even putting you in bad spots, I'm not entirely sure how Dricus does. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Dricus will be happy to stand with Brad. Dricus is damn good everywhere, dude. Got great grappling, but that kickboxing is the real deal. And you see that he can lose minutes and win moments. So that's not a bad recipe either.
Absolutely. Such a good fight there. Move on to the next one. We have Jessica I going against Macy Barber. We have Jessica I, 35 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Macy Barber, 24 years old, 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. Macy Barber is going to be 11 years younger. Macy Barber is going to be at a 1-inch height and reach disadvantage. Jessica I is 1-4 in her last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Valentina Shevchenko, a decision win against Viviane Araújo, a decision loss against Cynthia Calvillo, Joanne Calderwood, and Jennifer Maia. As far as Macy Barber, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a knockout win against Jillian Robertson, a decision loss against Roxanne Modafferi, decision loss against Alexa Grasso, a decision win against Miranda Maverick, and then a decision win against Montana De La Rosa. Weezy, how we feel about this one?
I feel like this is going to be such a good fight. Barber is such a scrapper. I is such a scrapper. I can't wait for this one. For the measurables, I'm giving the advantage to Barber because Macy's 11 years younger and she switches stances. So that's always a problem. The switch stance fighter against the orthodox fighter is like something like over 60% for the switch stance fighter over a very long term over all the weight classes. So it is a nice statistically significant advantage to have. But his eye was just going to be a little bit bigger, 1 inch taller, 1 inch of a reach. The experience obviously goes to Eye as she's got 14 more professional fights, over 200 more minutes in the pro cage, 7 more years as a pro, 7 more fights at the UFC level, and almost 125 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, that's all Barber. Macy's got a better finish rate as a pro and at the UFC level in comparison to Eye. 70% as a pro for Barber, 27% as a pro for Eye. And then at the UFC level, Barber's finishing 67% of her wins, while it's only 20% for Jessica. And Barber has never been finished as a pro, and Eye in 10 pro losses has only been finished twice. So both of these ladies are very durable. Jessica Eye has only been finished once at the UFC level, and it was because she got hit in the head with a baseball bat by Valentina Shevchenko. That head kick was absolutely nasty. That's the only time she's ever been finished at the UFC level. And Macy Barber tore her ACL like 30 seconds into the Modafferi fight and lasted through that one and showed a ton of grit and toughness. So this is one I'm going to be looking at. The fight goes to decision because of the durability of both of these ladies. When it comes to the striking, I'm going to give the advantage to Barber on the numbers. Barber's metrics have been better than Eye's thus far in the UFC. The significant strike differential for Macy is positive 1.76, and for Eye, it's negative 0.23. Accuracy, 51.7% for Barber, 37% for Eye. Both throw more volume than their opponents, but the advantage there also goes to Macy. Jessica has been knocked down at a lower rate and has the superior striking defense by a little over 2%. And where Macy really does her best work is in the clinch. She is mean there. She can hold her opponents there. She's very strong, and she does great work there. A lot of volume there in the clinch. So I do look for her to win a lot of minutes in the clinch like she did in the De La Rosa fight. And then in the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to Barber. Macy's done a really good job outside of the Modafferi fight of winning minutes on the cage as well as on the ground. Her efficiency numbers aren't nearly as good as Jessica's, though, as Jess gets her takedowns at a better rate than Macy does. However, Macy commits more to the grappling, attempting 3 takedowns per fight, while for Eye, it's just over 1. And Jessica, over a 15-fight sample size, has only controlled her opponents 11% of the time. So we really can't count on her to win minutes in the grappling here, especially against Macy, who we just saw fight Montana De La Rosa, somebody who really is a very good wrestler and who does commit to the grappling. I think if you look at Montana's numbers at the UFC level, that she's got over 40% control time for, even after the Macy Barber fight. So the fact that Macy was able to out-control De La Rosa and stop all those takedowns make me feel like even if Jessica does want to get this to the ground, it would be a waste of effort and energy for her. She's going to have to win this fight on the feet, I think. And the strength of schedule advantage goes to Jessica Eye. Jessica's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced, better win-loss ratio competition. I think this is a great fight, dude. Jessica Eye's losses have come to some really good fighters, and oftentimes they are very close decisions when she loses. Only been finished by Shevchenko at the UFC level, and I think she's going to scrap, and I think that this is going to be a really good fight, dude.
Yeah, I think it's a good one as well. And I think it's a good spot for Macy Barber. I guess the only problem for me is I think this fight goes to decision. And the judges lately have been just horrendous. Like, are they scoring control? Are they scoring damage? I thought we were scoring damage for a little bit, but looks like now we're scoring control. Like, I don't know what's going on with that. And yeah, if this fight is close, like it could get interesting with these judges, man. And we have Macy Barber as a huge favorite. Barber opened up -155. She's currently -230. Jessica Eye opened up +135, and she is currently +195. I mean, I'm not going to get involved there. I think Macy Barber is the rightful favorite. You know, Jessica Eye, 35 years old at this point on a 3-fight losing streak. I thought the Jennifer Maia fight was really close, could win either way. Joanne Wood went out there and had like a career best performance against her. That wasn't the best look. But yeah, I think Macy Barber should win this fight. But it's -230. I just don't really see myself getting there. Any thoughts on that line?
It's wide. You know, Eye's more experienced. Eye's a little bit bigger. You know, Eye's fought the better strength of schedule and beaten the better opponents. So, yeah, I wouldn't lay that much on Macy Barber. That being said, man, you know, I do like Macy quite a bit. She's still only 24 years old, Brady. She's already fought a lot of very experienced UFC competition. You know, ladies like Jillian Robertson, Roxanne Modafferi, Alexa Grasso, you know, Montana De La Rosa, Miranda Maverick. It's a good list of names. So, yeah, I think Barber should be the favorite here. But what have I been doing lately when it comes to, should I lay -250 on a women's fight? The answer is no. So it'll probably be dog or pass for me here. But if I were to bet Jessica I would bet her to win by decision to try to get even more juice there, so to speak. Probably get better than +300. But yeah, I don't know if I'm betting this fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been laying that -250 lately on these WMA fights, I mean, you've been getting smoked. Like, didn't you fry last night? We had Jez the Vicious. We had a couple other ones that
Corey
DePaula as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't always seem like the best idea. And if you do want to improve that Barber price tag, you still got to pay -110. So yeah, I just don't see myself really getting involved one way or another. I think Macy Barber's the rightful favorite. I think she should win the fight, but -230, just don't see myself really getting there. But we'll move on to the next fight. We have probably one of the best fights on the prelims. We have Uriah Hall going against Andre Muniz. We have Uriah Hall, 37 years old, 6 foot with a 79-inch reach. Andre Muniz, 32 years old, 6'1" with a 79-inch reach. Muniz 5 years younger. Muniz with a 1-inch height advantage and Muniz with a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Uriah Hall is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Bavon Lewis, a decision win against Antonio Carlos Jr., a knockout win against Anderson Silva, knockout win against Chris Weidman, and then a decision loss against Sean Strickland. As far as Muniz, he made his debut against Antonio Ahoya, won that fight by decision, submitted Fabinski, Jacare Souza, which is not an easy thing to do, and then submitted Eric Anders in the very first round, his last time out. This fight is the definition of a striker versus a grappler. Uriah Hall, tons of knockouts on his record, 76% knockout rate. Muniz, tons of submissions on his record, a 68% submission rate. Andre Muniz has been finished in all of his losses, all of those coming by knockout, and Uriah Hall has never been submitted. So this is a pretty simple fight to break down, Weezy. I mean, if Andre Muniz gets this fight down to the mat, he probably submits Uriah Hall. And if he strikes with Uriah Hall for long periods of time, he very well could get knocked out. So it should be a very fun one here, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a great one, too. I mean, we're really blessed on this card. We're really spoiled because this is just an incredible lineup of fights from top to bottom. The measurables, slight edge for Muniz. He's 5 years younger and an inch taller, and he's a southpaw. Hall has the 1-inch reach advantage. The experience advantage goes to Hall, but not by as much as you'd think. Because Hall only has one more pro fight. He has 100 more minutes in the pro cage, which is significant. 3.5 more years as a pro, 12 more UFC level fights, 140 more minutes in the UFC cage. But this guy Munhoz has been around for a minute, and the losses, are to some very legitimate competition, and he's got 22 wins. Uriah Hall only has 17. The finish stats and the durability, I'm going to give a slight edge to Hall here. Both guys are fantastic finishers, finishing at over 80%, 82% for Hall, 86% for Munhoz. But Munhoz has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses, while Hall has been finished in only 4 of 10 pro losses. In addition, Hall has been the better finisher at the UFC level. 80% finish rate at the UFC level for Hall, 67% for Munhoz. So yeah, slight edge for Hall there in the finish stats and durability. Striking, advantage Hall. Grappling, advantage Munhoz. We don't really need to go through those numbers very much. The numbers aren't really that important. We know that Uriah Hall is one of the best kickboxers to ever step into the sport and has had some of the best highlight reel knockouts that this sport has seen. And then Andre Munhoz is just a very, very high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappler who, when he gets to the ground, he finishes fights and finishes them very impressively. So they're both great finishers, but if this fight stays on the feet, it's going to be Hall. If it goes to the ground, it's going to be Munhoz. But it's interesting. Uriah Hall has 27 pro fights. You know that he's never been submitted, Brady?
Yeah.
Never been submitted. He has been out-controlled at about a 4-to-1 ratio, and not very efficient on the ground, though. Munhoz getting his takedowns at a 40% clip, averaging 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. And when he gets the fight to the ground, he's averaging 2.88 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So he's very active. His opponents have taken him down, too, 6 times. And he'll allow that. He doesn't mind being on the ground. So I think that Munhoz can absolutely win minutes here. Uriah Hall only a 65% takedown defense over an 18-fight sample size, and he's been controlled for more than 25% of his UFC cage time. So, Andre's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. He broke the arm of Jacare Souza. 15 of his 22 career wins, 4 of his 6 UFC wins are by subs. So, I really do like that ground advantage here. Maybe we will see Hall subbed for the first time. The strength of schedule advantage, though, goes to Hall, so he's fought, beaten, and lost to the better, more experienced competition at the UFC level. So with Hall, you've got an experience advantage, a strength of schedule advantage, a striking advantage, and a little bit of a durability and finish stats advantage. While for Munhoz, you've got that grappling advantage, that youth, a little bit of size, and the fact that that he's only 32 years old while Hall is at 37. They're at 2 different places in their career. Munhoz gets this win against Hall, he's probably 2 or 3 wins away from a potential title shot, especially at 185. So very, very good fight. I'm leaning Munhoz here, though.
Yeah, I'm leaning him too, but this line just scares the crap out of me. We have Munhoz opening up minus 225. He's now minus 260. Uriah Hall opens up plus 190. He's currently plus 220. So Munhoz is a huge favorite here. And yeah, I have some concerns. I have a lot of concerns about the chin of Andre Munhoz. I have concerns about the cardio of Andre Munhoz. I mean, that Antonio Hoyo fight, it was such a sloppy fight where both guys were extremely gassed out. And he has looked better since then, getting 3 subs in a row. I thought his takedowns looked much better. He was able to get some nice time shots against Jacare Souza, was able to get Eric Anders down a couple times. And I think if he does get this fight down to the mat, he probably is the first one to submit Uriah Hall. Like you said, Uriah Hall never been submitted, but neither had Jacare Souza. So I think it's definitely on the table there. Uriah Hall can be taken down. Go back and look at some of his fights. I watched the Antonio Carlos Jr. fight. Carlos Jr. did get him down 3 different times, got him in some really bad spots, took his back a couple times, and Hall was able to survive a lot against him for 3 rounds there. Won that fight in a very close fight there. Sean Strickland took him down 4 times. Other than that, Jaka took him down. Robert Whitaker took him down. And not really much out. John Howard back in the day, Kelvin Gastelum back in 2013. So, I think Munhoz should be able to get him down, but every fight does start on the feet, and Hall hits like an absolute truck. So, I mean, Hall's gonna have some opportunities here, but I don't like this line. I really don't like this line. I think it should be a little bit closer because Hall's going to have some opportunities to finish here. Munhoz, I don't love his striking. I think it's improved. I mean, Hall is going to have the advantage clearly on the feet. And then again, the chin, the durability, I've seen him get knocked out a ton. So how I'm going to be playing this fight is just kind of take a look at the props. I mean, but even then, like you have Munhoz, he's minus 150 to win inside the distance. I don't love that. His sub prop, you're probably going to pay like minus 120 for the sub prop. Yeah. Uriah Hall inside the distance is plus 320. I'm curious to see what the Uriah Hall but knockout prop is. Because I think that's his path to victory. But I'm with you. I like Munhoz here. I don't know if I can get to the minus 260. Any thoughts on the money line? Any thoughts on any props?
Yeah, the money line is just too wide for me. I would probably be looking at that Hall side, but God, what's fight doesn't go? Is that juice up to like minus 400 as well, or?
Yeah, it's minus 400, which makes sense because it's either Muniz sub, Hall knockout, but even then, like, you don't want to lay minus 400 on it. But at least it's better than the minus 750 with the Vieira Curtis.
Yeah, that's right, man. But even at minus 400, it makes it almost unparlayable. You're just not getting much. So, yeah, it might be a stay away for me, but that's fine because this is such a fun striker versus grappler matchup. I won't mind watching it with no money on it. But yeah, that Hall by KO prop, if I can get it at better than plus 400, that would be interesting.
Yeah, because Muniz has been knocked out 4 times and Hall hits very, very hard. We have a donation to the chat. We got Big Steve. What is up, Big Steve? Thank you for the dono, $10. Appreciate you for the dono. Appreciate you for hanging out with us on a Sunday. We will keep moving on, guys, to the next fight. We have Donald Cerrone going against Jim Miller. We have Donald Cerrone, 39 years old, 6'1", with a 73-inch reach. Jim Miller, 38 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach. It's going to be Jim Miller, who is 1 year younger. It's going to be Donald Cerrone, who's going to have a 5-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Donald Cerrone is 0-4-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss against Gaethje McGregor. Decision loss against Pettis. A no contest, which was a draw against Nico Price. Got overturned because I think Price popped for that marijuana. And then a knockout loss against Alex Morona in the very first round. Jim Miller, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Roosevelt Roberts. A decision loss to Vince Pichel, Joe Selecki, and then a back-to-back knockout wins in the second round against Nicholas Mata and Eric Gonzalez. And it's funny because when we talk about Jim Miller, typically we say, especially nowadays, like, this guy is round 1 or bust, but he's actually went in there in his last 2 fights and got that round 2 finish. So this is a fight where both guys are you're definitely getting up there in age. Cerrone, 39 years old, 38 years old for Jim Miller. It's just, I guess the question is, who is more washed? And I think the clear answer for me, at least, is going to be Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone has looked horrendous, honestly, his last few fights. He has not had a win since like 2018, whereas Jim Miller, although, he's going against guys like Eric Gonzalez, who I don't know if he's UFC caliber or not. Nicholas Mota, same thing. These guys aren't great that he's fighting, but he's going out there and finishing these guys and looking really good doing so. So, yeah, I mean, this is a rematch, by the way. Donald Cerrone did knock out Jim Miller, I want to say back in like 2014, 2015, way back in the day. I think in the second round as well. So it is a rematch here, but I think they're both at 2 different points of their career. Donald Cerrone, I'd be shocked if he fought again after this fight, whereas Jim Miller, the guy's kind of had like a little bit of a resurgence as of late. He's looking good. So this is kind of like the Joe Lozon fight a little bit, but I think Miller's in a better spot than Lozon was at. So I was picking Cerrone against Lozon. I'm actually going to be taking Miller to win here against Cerrone, and I think Miller knocks him out in the very first round. So give me Miller by first round knockout. I was all over the fight doesn't go to decision in the Lozon Cerrone fight, and I'm probably going to be all over in the fight doesn't go to decision in this fight as well. I think somebody gets finished here, whether it is Miller in that first or second round, or whether it is Cerrone in that second or third. So Weezy, how do you feel about this fight here?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this one. I mean, like, the numbers are very close for both of these guys. They're both almost 40. It's just Cerrone's much bigger. He's about 5 inches taller, has a 2-inch reach advantage. Jim Miller's a southpaw. In terms of total fights, total minutes in the cage, years as a pro, UFC fights, UFC Cage Time, it's almost identical for both of them. Both of them have finish rates over 70%, but less than 80%. Both are finishing at a really good rate at the UFC level. 65% for Miller, 69% for Cerrone. But Miller's been a little more durable, as he's been finishing a third of his UFC fights, while for Cerrone it's 5/8. 56% as a pro, 31% as a pro are the finish rates against for Miller and for Cerrone and Miller, respectively. In terms of the striking, I got to give the striking advantage here to Cerrone. He's just a better kickboxer. Jim Miller is somebody who has, gotten a lot of submissions at the UFC level, while it's been more knockouts for Cerrone. And Miller, 95 takedown attempts in 40 fights. Cerrone, 83 takedown attempts in 37 fights. So they're both, committing to the wrestling a lot, but it's Cerrone who has 90% takedown defense and Jim Miller who has 48% takedown defense. Cerrone keeps his fight standing 85% of the time. Jim Miller is in the grappling realm over 50% of the time. So it's a little bit of a clash of styles here. But Jim Miller, while he has good takedowns, I don't think he's taken down Cerrone, and Cerrone's got very good submissions as well. So if we look at the strength of schedule here, it leans Cerrone in the wins, and overall, while the losses are just a little bit better for Jim Miller. But, I mean, boy, this line's too wide for me, man. I don't think Jim Miller should be this big of a favorite. I know that the narrative says that he's more committed right now to being a mixed martial artist than Cerrone is, but man, I can't lay minus 200 on a guy like Miller, thinking like that his path is that he has to outstrike a guy in Cerrone who's been known to be a very high level striker against 170 pounders in the UFC. So I'm thinking this is kind of a dog or pass spot for me. But man, would I be putting a lot of units on, two guys whose ages almost add up to 80 at this point? Probably not. I probably won't have a lot of money on this fight. And I do think fight doesn't go to decision at better than minus 200 is a good bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, betting aside, or just like the Lozon fight, like nobody, like you shouldn't be betting aside in that fight. Same thing here. And I get what you're saying, right? Like stylistically, this is a bad matchup for Jim Miller. It really is. Jim Miller is going to want to get it down to the mat. Cerrone's grappling is extremely underrated. His takedown defense is phenomenal. And Donald Cerrone is the much better striker. It's just, for me, I mean, the durability is not there. The chin's not there. The narrative, he probably doesn't want to be here. That scares me away. So, yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, but I also think that Jim Miller probably knocks this guy out. But, yeah, I mean, you can't lay minus 210 on Jim Miller here. Jim Miller is minus 210. He opened up as there it is. So we opened up minus 155. He's now minus 210. Donald Cerrone opened up plus 135. He's now plus 180. The fight goes to decision plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 180. So kind of opened up right around where that Lozon Cerrone fight doesn't go to decision did. And that fight doesn't go into decision. And the Cerrone Lozon fight was, I think, like minus 230, minus 240 around there at close. So that line probably gets smashed. Don't have access to it right now, but yeah, I'd be betting that minus 180 there.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a good spot. Somebody should get finished in this fight. And it is at 170 pounds. I didn't realize that. It makes sense, though. You can't make Cerrone make that cut down to 155. He's already made it twice in the last month and then didn't fight either time. So to make him make that cut at his age again is just stupid. But he'll be a lot bigger than Jim Miller here at 170.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see Jim Miller's game plan here. If Jim Miller's game plan is to come in here and grapple with Cerrone, like I think he's probably going to lose. Like we even saw in the, I think it was either the Gonzalez fight or I think it was the Gonzalez fight where he did have a little bit of success in the grappling. And that second round started and Jim Miller looked like tired. He looked really tired. And then luckily he went out there and starched Gonzalez in the first 20 seconds. But if he goes out there and tries to take down Cerrone and doesn't have success, I mean, the conditioning of Miller is typically very bad. So, yeah, I mean, you can't lay minus 210 on Jim Miller here, but those violence props are something I'm definitely going to be looking at.
Yeah, I think it's a great violence spot in this fight, and I think that line's going to get run up to probably about minus 240 again.
Yep, I think so too. So hopefully BetOnline, FanDuel, DraftKings, they get it out very soon. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Garry going against Gabe Green. Yeah, this fight's good, man. I cannot wait for this one. We have Garry, who is 24 years old, 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. Gabe Green, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. So Garry is going to be 5 years younger, and Garry is going to have a 5-inch height advantage and then a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Garry is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Jordan Williams, won that fight by knockout, and then it beat Darian Weeks by decision. Gabe Green, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut on short notice against Daniel Rodriguez, lost by decision, had a decision win against Philip Rowe, and then beat Johan Lioness by knockout in a fight where he got dropped bad in that second round, got back up, and then finished Johan Lioness in that second round there. So, yeah, this fight's really good. I'm excited to see Garry continue his run here. After knocking out Jordan Williams, beating Darian Weeks by decision, I think this will be his toughest test yet against Gabe Green, who Gabe Green is the definition of a dog, a guy that's going to come forward the entire fight. He's going to try to take your head off, a very underrated submission game as well. I'm curious to see how Gary's going to react to kind of this pressure of Gabe Green I think is going to put on him here. So Weezy, should be a fun fight here. What do you got for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like the measurables advantage for Garry being 5 years younger, 4 inches taller, the 1 inch reach advantage, but Green switches stances, so that's good for Green. And then the experience advantage goes to Gabe Green here. Obviously, he's got 5 more pro fights, just a few more minutes in the pro cage, almost 3 more years as a pro though, 1 more fight at the UFC level, 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, so a slight experience advantage for Green. The finish stats and the durability, I've actually got it even. Green is the better finisher as a pro, finishing 10 of his 11 pro wins and 1 of his 2 UFC wins, while Garry's finishing at a 67% clip in his 9 pro wins. Green has been finished in 2 of his 3 pro losses, and Garry's never been beaten, so I'll give the finishing edge to Green and the durability edge to Garry. In the striking, I've got it even. It's hard to say who has the better striking, in my opinion. Garry has more impressive ratios, power numbers, and defense, and he's never been knocked down, while Green has been knocked down once. While Green throws way more volume, he also shows good power, great low leg kicks, and really good forward pressure. So I guess I'll give a slight edge to Garry because he does have that reach advantage, the size and height advantage. But, Gabe Green's going to be walking forward. He's going to be throwing those low leg kicks, and they are very effective. In the grappling, I got to give the advantage to Green. Green has shown good efficiency thus far, as his opponents have attempted 5.5 takedowns for every 1 that Gabriel has tried, yet they have only out-controlled him at less than a 2-to-1 ratio. So Gabe has completed both of his takedown attempts, and he's an excellent submission grappler, winning 6 of his 11 fights by submission. Garry hasn't even attempted a takedown thus far in the UFC, and he's been controlled for over 18% of his UFC cage time thus far. The strength of schedule has advantaged Gabe Green as well. So far, Green has fought the much better and more experienced brand of competition thus far in the UFC, fighting Johan Lioness, Philip Rowe, and D-Rod, who have a combined record of 11-3 in the UFC, while Garry's competition has a combined UFC record of 2-6. So, I like the strength of schedule for Green. I like the grappling for Green. I like the experience for Green. And I like that measurables advantage that Garry has and the seeming striking advantage that he has, being more accurate, being a little more powerful, and a little more defensively responsible. So it's going to be a great fight between 2 good prospects here. While Ian Garry is 24 and he's considered a great prospect, let's not forget that Gabe Green's only 29 years old, and he has 14 fights and an 11-3 record against some really good guys. So this is a banger, dude.
Yeah, man, and I kind of like Green here. I mean, Ian Garry is a guy where I really liked what I saw watching tape on him prior to his debut against Jordan Williams. And the one thing I did not like about Ian Garry was his striking defense. This guy kind of has that like Dusko Todorovic striking defense where his hands are down low, his chin's up in the air. He's kind of relying on that head movement. And you don't want to do that at the UFC level here. And in his debut against Jordan Williams, I had a big bet on Ian Garry. I thought it was a great matchup for him, but Jordan Williams was having a ton of success. He was busting this guy up in the first round, and Garry was able to knock him out at the end of the first round. But if that fight went to the second round, I think Garry probably lost that first round against Jordan Williams if that fight would have went to the second there. So that was not the best look for me. And I really like Gabe Green's pressure. I like the fact that he's throwing a ton of volume. I like that he's going to come forward. I think he's really going to pressure Garry, make him feel uncomfortable. And then on top of that, mixing some grappling as well, get this fight down to the mag. Gabe Green, a very good grappler. So I think Gabe Green has a lot of paths to victory here. We do see that he is the underdog. And I think that could be because there's hype on Ian Garry. Garry opened up -175. He's currently -162. Gabe Green opened up +150. He is currently +142. I feel like Green's a very live dog here, and this fight should be very competitive, Weezy.
Yeah, and what people don't realize about Gabe Green, if you've only watched the UFC tape, is this dude is really dangerous on the ground from everywhere. He's going for submissions. He's a very talented submission and grappler. The wrestling, not so much, man. Only 2 takedown attempts in 3 fights. But even though he's attempted 2 takedowns, his opponents have attempted 11. But still, like I say, Gabe Green being controlled 20% of the time, but he's getting 10% control time. So the fact that he's only getting out-controlled 2-1 when his opponents are committing to the grappling a lot more, than Gabe is, shows how dangerous he is, how good he is at getting back up when he is taken down. And the fact that he's attempting submissions as well makes him dangerous. So we've seen Ian Garry control for almost 20% of his UFC cage time thus far. So there's a path there for Gabe Green. I'm liking the plus money on the underdog here as well.
Yeah, we take a look at the fight goes to decision is sitting at minus 125. The fight doesn't go to decision is sitting at minus 115. So Garry has a 56% finish. No, he has a 67% finish rate, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's 2/3, 6 of his 9 wins finishing inside the distance.
And Gabe Green has a 100% finish rate, right?
Almost. He's got a 91% finish rate, 10 of 11 wins. So he does have a win by decision over Phil Rowe. But remember, he was kicking his leg off.
Yeah.
And when Phil Rowe couldn't stand up anymore, Gabe Green took him down.
Yeah.
And chose not to finish the fight and stay on top of him, even though he knew Rowe couldn't walk. So, one of those things that, makes you think like, what was this guy thinking right there? Why wasn't he trying to finish him? Because he had finished all of his other fights. But it goes to show you, too, that if he wants to take people down and win minutes down there, and Phil Rowe is another very dangerous grappler, very good submission guy, very long, very difficult to deal with on the ground. And he did fine on top of him. So, this is I do like Gabe Green here, man. It's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, for sure. Cannot wait for this one. Let us keep moving on. We have, and this is probably the 1-800 gambler fight of the week for me. We have Robbie Lawler going against Bryan Barberena. We have Robbie Lawler, 40 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. Bryan Barberena, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. We have Barberena 7 years younger, and Barberena with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Robbie Lawler, 1-4 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss against RDA, submission loss to Ben Askren, a decision loss to Colby Covington, a decision loss to Neil Magny, and then a knockout win against Nick Diaz. As far as Bryan Barberena, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, knockout loss against Randy Brown, a decision win against Anthony Ivy, a decision loss against Jason Witt, a decision win against Darian Weeks, and then a decision win against Matt Brown. Weezy, I have no clue what to do with this one here.
It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a fun fight. Barberena is always in all action, wars, and with the same can be said for Robbie Lawler. Let's just go through the numbers, see if we can find a way to pick a side here. The measurables, I've got Barberena better there, as he's 7 years younger, 1 inch taller, but it's Robbie Lawler who has the 2-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. The experience advantage goes to Lawler, 19 more pro fights, 180 more minutes in the pro cage, 8.5 more years as a pro, 10 more UFC fights, and 130 more minutes in the UFC cage. I'm giving a slight edge to Barberena for the finish stats and durability. Both guys have identical finish rates as pros, sitting at 75%, and both finish at exactly 57% at the UFC level. However, Barberena has been slightly more durable, being finished at only 38% of his pro losses, while for Lawler, it's 53%. And at the UFC level, Barberena also gets finished less, 33% to 55% for Lawler. The striking, I'm going to go advantage Barberena here, and this is the numbers. Bryan's numbers overall are better than Robbie's. He's got a 0.79 significant strike differential compared to negative 0.83 for Lawler. He's a little more accurate, has slightly more knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he throws way more volume than his opponents, while Lawler consistently gets out-volumed by his opponents. In the grappling, I got the advantage going to Lawler here, as neither guy is committed to wrestling offensively, and both guys are very efficient in the grappling ratios, despite the fact that their opponents constantly try to take them down. Robbie has better wrestling as he gets his takedowns at a 74% clip, averaging 0.83 takedowns per 15 minutes, while for Bryan, it's only 0.17. Robbie's takedown defense is also better at 65% compared to just 56% for Barberena. But I don't see either one of these guys really trying to get takedowns in this fight. I think it's going to take place on the feet. And then when it comes to the strength of schedule, it's advantage Lawler. Robbie has fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced competition, and he was champion, so he fought 5-rounders against the top-ranked opponents. Bryan's opponents have a better win-loss ratio on the aggregate, though. So, Yeah, I mean, I guess I like Barberena's tail of the tape. I like Barberena's strength of schedule a little bit, but I also like the experience for Lawler, the grappling for Lawler, and the more experienced competition on the strength of schedule metrics as well. And I think that Lawler will probably be the guy that's more likely to land the big shot. They're both pretty durable, but Barberena's 45% striking defense, I think, will be a problem here. But Barberena makes up for it by throwing a ton more volume than his opponents do.
Yeah, man, this is going to be such a greasy fight, but it's going to be so much fun. They're just going to stand in the middle and bang until one man falls. Remember how fun the Nick Diaz Robbie Lawler fight was? I was there live, and people were just going crazy. Like, they were just standing and banging. And Nick Diaz, which, by the way, prior to that fight, Diaz last fought in 2015. Nick Diaz came in there against Robbie Lawler, and in the first round, Nick Diaz lands 71 significant strikes to Robbie Lawler's 57. In the second round, Diaz lands 73 significant strikes to Robbie Lawler's 64, and then Robbie Lawler does catch him in that third round. Bryan Barberena, his takedown defenses looked atrocious as of late. It's just you take a look at Robbie Lawler and only 17 takedowns completed in 23 fights. So I don't know if Robbie Lawler is going to go that takedown route. I mean, he really hasn't done it, especially as of late. The last time that Robbie Lawler had gotten a takedown was back in 2019 against Ben Askren. Prior to that, he hadn't got a takedown since 2014 against Matt Brown. So he's going to go in there and try to take down Bryan Barberena. I'm not so sure. Yeah, I just think they're going to stand and bang. I kind of like the dog here. And by the way, Barberena is the dog. And I don't really understand why. I mean, he's younger. I think that's huge. Like, Robbie Lawler is 40 years old. He's taken a ton of damage. He has not looked great at all. Yes, he went out there and beat Nick Diaz, but Nick Diaz had not fought in like 6 years. Robbie Lawler opened up a dog plus 130. He's currently minus 130. Barberena opened up minus 150. He's currently plus 110. I kind of more so agree with that opener. And I don't want to bet Bryan Barberena, but I feel like this is a very winnable matchup because Robbie Lawler won't be going for takedowns. I like the youth. I like the toughness. And I think I like the volume. I think Barberena can come away with a decision victory here. The fight goes to decision minus 175. The fight doesn't go plus 135. Lawler inside the distance plus 315. Barberena inside the distance plus 355. Barberena by decision plus 240. Lawler by decision plus 170. Anything sticking out? Money line props, anything like that, Weezy?
I'm actually kind of leaning Lawler here, but am I betting it? No. God, this is going to be such a fun fight. But I mean, even when I looked at the prop template for this one, I was like, I should probably bet the fight doesn't go to decision. It's plus money. But then when I looked at it, these guys aren't finishing much at the UFC level. Only 53% of their fights are finishing inside the distance combined in their wins and losses. But the fight doesn't go to decision is only clocking in at 42% at plus 135. And these fights are finishing at a 48% clip. So maybe take a shot on the fight doesn't go, because I think the stylistic matchup kind of dictates that these guys stand in the front in the middle and just meet in the middle and throw bombs. That's kind of what I see happening here. You look at the numbers in the takedown stats, right? Lawler, 23 takedown attempts in 23 fights, 108 takedown attempts against. And then Barberena, only 8 takedown attempts in 13 fights, but his opponents have attempted 93 takedowns. So we got two guys who have a ton of takedowns attempted against them, but don't really try to get takedowns. And if we can count on neither one of them to attempt takedowns, we can count on them to stand in the middle and bang. And if that's how this fight goes, I think probably somebody gets knocked out, and I wouldn't mind being on that fight doesn't go to decision.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I mean, especially with how the fight's going to play out, right? Like, they're just going to stand and bang. Would it really shock anybody if this fight finished? Not really. So, yeah, I feel like anybody betting on a side here should be hit with a bag of oranges. But, I mean, if the line gets wider, I might have to take a shot on Bryan Barberena here. So, be ready for you to take a trip over here, Weezy, and hit me with some oranges. But, yeah, I do like the Barberena side just a little bit, man. I mean, both these guys, it feels like both these guys are washed, but Bryan Barberena is only 33 years old. And we were talking about Barberena looking washed back against like Anthony Ivy when Anthony Ivy was taking him down several times. Losing to Jason Witt is a terrible look. Like, that's a bad look. Darian Weeks, that was a close fight. And then even a close fight against Matt Brown as well. So, I mean, how can anybody really be confident either side here?
Yeah, it'd be hard to, and I'm not confident on either side. Like I said, I'm maybe leaning Lawler, but the fight doesn't go at plus money is something I'm going to be taking a look at, because I think stylistically these guys are going to stand and bang, and it's going to be a fun fight to watch. And if they fight that way, it'll probably end inside the distance. So it's going to be a good one, though.
I'll tell you one thing, you're not going to want a fight goes to decision bet with these two. I mean, you're going to be sweating, taking years off your life, sitting there watching that. That'd be terrible. But yeah, I lean that fight as it goes, especially at plus money as well.
Yeah, and especially the way Barberena blocks punches with his face with that 45% striking defense. A guy like Lawler that hits as hard as he does, it's going to be a banger. Can't wait for it.
Absolutely. And we did see Jason Witt, out of all people, Jason Witt knocked down Bryan Barberena. So why can't Robbie Lawler as well? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I like it, man. All right. Should be a fun fight. Yeah, that fight's going to be so much fun. We have the next fight, which is going to be fun as well. And I think that, this is the last fight as far as I'm concerned. Or is this the very first fight on the main card?
Yeah, because they were actually going to put Tate against Murphy on the main card. But now that that's no longer on the card, and I don't think they're going to find a short notice replacement, Riddell Turner absolutely deserves to be. I mean, there's a lot of fights that deserve to be on this main card, but man, Riddell Turner, come on, this is such a good one.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, we're placing the Murphy fight, and I'm happy with it, man. This fight's gonna be good. We have Brad Riddell going against Jalen Turner. Riddell, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach. Jalen Turner, 27 years old, 6'3", with a 77-inch reach. Man, this guy's huge for the division. I mean, it's not often at all you see guys like Jalen Turner out there at this weight class. Like, I mean, I don't know how a 6'3" guy can make 155 pounds, but he does it, man. I mean, he's going to have a three age gap here. He's going to be 3 years younger. He's going to have a massive 8-inch height advantage, and then a massive 6-inch reach advantage. I mean, that tail of the tape is absolutely significant. Brad Riddell's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Jamie Malarkey, a decision win against Magomed Mustafayev, a decision win against Alexis Silva, decision win against Drew Dober, and then a knockout loss against Rafael Fiziev. Jalen Turner 4-1 in his last 5 fights, decision loss to Matt Frivola, a knockout win against Josh Kulabau, a submission win against Brock Weaver, a submission win against Uros Medic, and then a knockout win against Jalen Turner. And yeah, I like both these guys, Weezy. What I like most about Jalen Turner is not only the fact that this guy is 6'3" at 155 pounds with that reach, but he's dangerous anywhere the fight goes. He fights very, very long. He's somebody that uses that reach. And when this guy lands, he lands extremely hard. The guy has a ton of power. And then the submission game as well. This guy's submission game is no joke. He's good on the mat. He's good on the feet. He's dangerous anywhere the fight goes. Brad Riddell, very good striker. And, this is a fight where, I don't know, like Brad Riddell, like on the feet, he's going to be at a huge disadvantage in terms of the height and reach. I think in terms of pure skill on the feet, I mean, Brad Riddell's probably the better striker, but I think that height and reach is really going to play a factor here. And I think in terms of, who's more dangerous on the feet, it's definitely Jalen Turner. And then also we see that Brad Riddell, although he is a kickboxer, he has been going to that takedowns. He has 9 takedowns in 5 fights. He took down Jamie Malarkey a couple times. I don't think that's going to be on the table here against Jalen Turner. After looking into it, I think it's a pretty good spot here for Jalen Turner. I feel like, Brad Riddell's not going to try to take down Jalen Turner. If he does, he could get in some trouble. I feel like Jalen Turner can go for some takedowns here. If he can get on top of Brad Riddell, he could have a lot of success. And then I feel like on the feet, Jalen Turner is going to be more dangerous, big height advantage, big reach advantage. And I feel like he could even hurt Riddell and knock him out. So, I like Jalen Turner here a decent amount, but the line is pretty closely lined here. Weezy, any thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, first of all, I don't even know how the hell Jalen Turner makes 155. How does that happen, dude? He's 6'3". It's unbelievable. So with the measurables, obviously it's all Turner. 3 years younger, 8 inches taller, 6-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw. So he's just a nightmare to deal with. I mean, if you've ever played basketball, Brady, you can't teach height. You just can't. You can't practice for height. You can't teach it. You either have it or you don't. And Jalen Turner is just a problem at the 155-pound division with the frame that he brings. And the other problem with it, Brady, is the fact that, for a skinny guy, this guy's got crazy power, So when you're 6'3" and you're long and you're gangly, you shouldn't be just starching hoes. But that's what he's doing. He's starching hoes. He's starching guys like Jamie Malarkey, who you could hit in the face with a shovel and he won't go down. Dude, he melted that dude. He melted him. So, yeah, Jalen Turner is a very, very special athlete, a very special and unique problem to deal with in the lightweight division of the UFC right now. But in the experience, it's even. Jalin has 5 more pro fights and 3 more UFC level fights, but Brad has over 10 more minutes in the pro cage and over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, 2.5 more years as a pro. It's just Jalen's been more active in the years that he's been out there. The finish stats and durability, I've got the advantage going to Turner, is he's got 100% finish rate and 12 pro wins, 9 knockouts, 3 submissions, while for Riddell, it's only 50%, and Riddell only has knockouts. He's never submitted anybody. In addition, Turner has been more durable, being finished in 3 of 5 pro losses, all by knockout, while Brad has been finished in 100% of his 2 pro losses, once by knockout, once by submission. In the striking, I wanted to just say, Riddell's, a kickboxing coach over at City Kickboxing. The guy is, a former kickboxer. He should have the advantage here, but I'm saying the striking's even. Riddell's the more technical kickboxer, more defensively responsible, while Turner has that huge height and reach advantage and has shown next level power thus far in the UFC, landing a knockdown on almost 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's landing. And he's averaging a whopping 1.45 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Jalen's ratios and differentials are both better than Brad's, but both guys significantly outland and outthrow their opponents. So while Riddell's more technically responsible, he's better, probably the better kickboxer, it's just Jalen Turner's size and power, can make up for a lot of disadvantage he might have in just having the experience of kickboxing that Riddell has. But man, that size, that power, and then you look at the fact that Jalen Turner is throwing 13.72 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are only throwing 7.81. So he's outlanding them, he's outpowering them, and he's outthrowing them, and then he's got that huge reach and size advantage as well. And then when we go to the grappling stats, I've got the advantage Turner here as well. Jalen's efficiency thus far has been very impressive at the UFC level. Even though Jalen's opponents have attempted 26 takedowns and Jalen has only attempted 5, Jalen outcontrols his opponents 19% to 14%. His takedown defense is better than Brad's 77% compared to Riddell's 62.5%. And he gets his takedowns at a higher rate, 80% takedown efficiency for Turner, 39% for Riddell. And Brad has been controlled for almost 24% of his UFC cage time, but he does have a solid get-up game. And in the strength of schedule, Jalen has fought, beaten the better win-loss ratioed opponents, but Brad has fought and beaten the more experienced guys. So, yeah, I've got the striking even, but I love the tail of the tape for Turner. I love the grappling stats for Turner. I love the finish stats and the durability numbers for Turner. And the strength of schedule even leans Turner in terms of the win-loss ratio competition of his opponents. So, and I won a nice chunk of money on Turner last time out against Brad Malaki with that big knockout that he got. And I know I had about 2.7 units on that at minus 135. So I've cashed bets on this Turner before, and I might be looking to do it again here.
Yeah, and I've been cashing bets on these freaking unders, and these fight doesn't go with these Turner fights. I had a big bet on that Medic fight doesn't go, the Malarkey fight doesn't go, and I think I might do it again here. You take a look at both these guys' losses. Like, hasn't Riddell been finished in both his losses?
Yep, once by submission, once by knockout.
And then Turner's been finished in 3 of 5, right? I think 3 by knockout.
Exactly. He's been knocked out 3 times. Jalen Turner's record's 12-5, but think about it. Dude, he's on a 4-fight winning streak. He was 8-5, at the point when, and then he lost to Frivola. This was a guy who was a physical freak, but because he was so big and he had so much potential, he was taking fights he probably shouldn't have been taking early in his career. And he's got a lot of losses on his record. But now this kid's 27 years old. He's coming into his prime. If this guy still can continue to make 155 without being a huge problem for him, I think Jalen Turner is going to be a massive problem for the 155-pound division.
Absolutely. We see that Jalen Turner opened up minus 175. He's currently minus 119. Brad Riddell opened up plus 150. He's currently minus 101. I like this fight doesn't go to decision here. Fight doesn't go, sitting at minus 150 for a guy in Jalen Turner who has a 100% finish rate. He's been knocked out 3 times. And the guy like Brad Riddell, who has some power in his own right. And then he's been finishing both his losses. So I like Jalen Turner money line. I don't know where it's going to go. Haven't seen a ton of line movement as of late, but Jalen Turner money line, and then also that fight doesn't go around minus 150 or 2 spots. I'm really eyeing this week, Weezy.
Yeah, I think the fight doesn't go to decision when you're getting it at better than minus 200, and you've got a killer be killed fighter in there like Jalen Turner. Yeah, you got to love that, and that's something I'm definitely going to be taking a look at for this fight. And, I think the Jalen Turner money line, I think more money is going to be coming in on this guy. But Brad Riddell, dude, you don't want to just be like thinking that he's going to walk through Brad Riddell, because he's not. Brad Riddell is damn good, and he's underrated because of his well-roundedness, because of his toughness. There's no quitting this kid. He's a real scrapper. So this is such a good fight on such a great card.
Absolutely. Cannot wait for this one. I think it's going to be the perfect fight to kick off that main card. We got F. Carrillo. What is up? F. Carrillo saying it to the dynamic duo. Appreciate you, F. Carrillo, hanging out every week. And pretty much every show we see F. Carrillo in these shows. So we appreciate you, F. Carrillo, one of our biggest supporters. It does mean a ton. And also, I see some people in the chat saying hit the like, and I agree. We have 236 people in here, and we only have about 85 likes. We got to get to 100 by the time we get out of here. It always feels good to hit that 100
They
mark.
don't let us leave unless we get 100, you guys.
Exactly.
So please help us out, all right?
Yep, and they said if we don't get 100, we have to watch Josh Parisian fights on just nonstop until we get the 100 there.
We don't want to do that, guys. We have tape study to do for this card. If we just have to watch Josh Parisian fights, that doesn't help us give you any better advice. Just hit that like button. It costs you nothing. Help us out, huh?
Yeah, and then on the weeks where we do really bad with the likes, we get threatened with we have to take our hair and turn it into a TJ Brown hairstyle. We got to shave off the sides, leave the mohawk, and then dye it blonde. So that's what we have to deal with here at being a content creator. It's scary stuff.
It can't be understated how bad that haircut was.
Dude, imagine me coming on one night with that haircut. I mean, you'd probably have to leave the stream.
I mean, it would be so bad, dude.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. But we do appreciate you hanging out with us here on a Sunday for a very, very good card. Move on to the next fight. We have Pedro Munhoz going against Sean O'Malley. We have Pedro Munhoz, 35 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Sean O'Malley, 27 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Right off the bat, Sean O'Malley is going to be 8 years younger. Sean O'Malley is going to have a 5-inch height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage. Another very significant tail of the tape here in favor of Sean O'Malley. Pedro Munhoz is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Aljamain Sterling, a decision loss to Frankie Edgar, a decision win against Jimmy Rivera, a decision loss against Jose Aldo, and then a decision loss against Dominic Cruz. Sean O'Malley, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Eddie Wineland, a knockout loss against Thomas Almeida, a knockout win against Thomas Almeida, a knockout win against Chris Moutinho, and then a knockout win against Raulian Paiva. So as you can see, Pedro Munhoz fighting the much better competition, and it's really not even close. Whereas Sean O'Malley, just going out there and knocking out guys like Eddie Wineland, Almeida, Moutinho. So this will be a very big step up in competition for Sean O'Malley. And, looking into the fight, like the tail of the tape is heavily in favor of Sean O'Malley. I think that height and reach is definitely going to play a factor. And I like the striking of Sean O'Malley. I like the volume as well. And I think he'll be the minute winner on the feet. But the fight that kind of scared me was that Jimmy Rivera fight of Pedro Munhoz. I mean, he was tearing up the legs of Jimmy Rivera. I guess my concern is if Munhoz does go to the legs of Sean O'Malley, how is Sean O'Malley going to respond? We've seen him get his legs kicked off before. He hasn't worked out too well. But I feel like it's a good spot for Sean O'Malley. And we'll talk about the line in a little bit. It's a very, very wide line. But unless Munhoz hurts O'Malley, which could happen, I think O'Malley should win this fight, and probably by decision as well. I mean, it's very tough to finish Pedro Munhoz. He's never been knocked out. This guy has a chin of steel, whereas and if we're talking durability, it's heavily in favor of Munhoz, where I don't want to say I question the durability of O'Malley, but if somebody does get finished here, I kind of lean it being Sean O'Malley getting finished, honestly. Maybe a hot take there, but Pedro Munhoz's durability is no joke. So, yeah, I like Sean O'Malley here, Weezy, but I'm not going to be running to the window to lay this price tag. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I kind of like that Pedro Munhoz finish only prop for this fight because he's the underdog. And I mean, if you just go back and you watch the tape on this guy, his durability is unbelievable. It is seriously next level. So I just don't see O'Malley getting a finish here, but god damn, it is hard to see Pedro Munhoz winning this fight. Look at this. O'Malley, 8 years younger, 5 inches taller, 7-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter, right? So you got to love all those measurables, especially in a striking-based fight, is going to be a huge advantage for Sean O'Malley. And then in the experience, obviously that's all Munhoz. 9 more professional fights, 320 more minutes in the pro cage, about 6 more years as a pro. 8 more UFC level fights and about 110 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Pedro Munhoz with a big experience advantage here. Matt O'Malley finishing 80% of his pro wins. For Munhoz, it is 68% of his pro wins. So they're both doing a good job of finishing fights. And O'Malley finishing at just a little bit better rate at the UFC level, 75%, while for Munhoz, it's 66%. And it's obviously going to be Pedro Munhoz, one of the most durable fighters on the face of the planet, never been finished in 7 professional losses, while Sean O'Malley's been finished in his only loss. Munhoz, in the striking numbers, he gets outlanded by 0.6 significant strikes per minute and gets outthrown by about 2 significant strike attempts per minute. He's far less accurate than Sean O'Malley, but he's never been knocked down. Now, O'Malley, on the other hand, is putting up video game numbers in the striking, landing 8.26 significant strike attempts or significant strikes per minute, only absorbing 3.52, and he's throwing almost 3 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents are. In addition to that, Munhoz has only 7 takedowns in 17 UFC fights, and his control time is under 6%. So with those kind of numbers, it leads me to believe that Pedro Munhoz is going to have to win this fight on the feet. How does he win a striking match against Sean O'Malley when he's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage, a 5-inch height disadvantage, the guy that he's trying to hit is switching stances constantly and is managing range well? This is, I think it's a smash spot for O'Malley, but Sean O'Malley by decision is how I would try to get this at a cheaper price if I'm betting O'Malley. And you better believe I'm going to be on the finish only prop for Pedro Munhoz. I'm looking for plus 300, Brady, and I think I might fucking get it, baby. I think I might get it. And there might be a full unit on that to win 3.
Yeah, I mean, Munhoz's durability is off the charts. Like, he's absorbed, over 1,000 significant strikes, and the guy's not went down. This guy's chin is next level. If Sean O'Malley finished him, I'd be very impressed, honestly. I mean, he finished Paiva, Moutinho, Almeida, Eddie Wineland.
He got help on Moutinho.
He did, didn't he? Like, I was thanking Herb Dean. Like, I was thanking him so much because I had the fight doesn't go in that fight, but. Yeah, and then we saw 40-year-old Guido Canetti get rid of Moutinho in like a minute. But yeah, I think you nailed it. I think the finish only prop for Munhoz. We see that Munhoz inside the distance is plus 420. O'Malley inside the distance is plus 140. So you might get a damn near plus 300 on the finish only in this fight, right? Like that's big discrepancy, man. And then O'Malley by decision is something else I'm going to be taking a look at. A plus 190 for O'Malley by decision, which I think that's a solid spot as well. So O'Malley on the money line though is minus 255, opened up minus 250, and then Munhoz opened up plus 210. He's currently plus 215. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a really good spot for O'Malley. But Munhoz, he's tough. He's a dog.
And those leg kicks, Brady.
Those leg kicks, they scare me.
Yeah.
He's
going to have to watch out for that, man. But, I think everywhere else, because I don't think he's taken Sean down. And in the striking, man, Sean's just fantastic there.
Absolutely. Any thoughts on any other props? The fight goes to decision. This is interesting. The fight goes to decision is plus 100. The fight doesn't go as minus 140. I'd kind of be looking towards that fight goes.
I think a fight goes is really nice, actually, because fights go to decision in the bantamweight weight class about 50% of the time. And you got a guy in Munhoz who's never been finished. And the guy who's supposed to win this fight is almost a minus 300 favorite. So I think the numbers play in your favor there. I think you're getting a little bit of a discount because nobody's knocking out Pedro Munhoz.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys with that durability. Guys like Max Holloway, guys like Marlon Vera. You typically do not see them getting dropped, getting knocked out, and this guy's very tough to finish. So if he does it, he does it. I'd be surprised, I'd be impressed, but I'm leaning towards that decision as well. And next we have a phenomenal fight on the main card. I feel like this is going to be the fight where everybody's talking about this fight already. I feel like it's going to be one of the most talked about fights of the week, and rightfully so. This fight's phenomenal. We have Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira. Sean Strickland, 31 years old. He is 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Alex Pereira is 34 years old. He is 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Sean Strickland, 3 years younger. Alex Pereira with a 3-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Sean Strickland is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Jack Marshman, a knockout win against Brendan Allen, a decision win against Christoph Jocko, a decision win against Uriah Hall, and then a decision win against Jack Hermanson. As far as Alex Pereira made his debut against Andreas Michailidis, got held against the cage for pretty much the whole first round there, came out in the second and landed a nice flying knee on Michailidis, put him out there, and then he won a decision against Bruno Silva. That was another one of those fights we saw last night with the Curtis Vieira fight. Doesn't go as like minus 750. This was the case here. It was like fight as it goes like minus 750, minus 800. And it did go to decision there. Kind of a lot of sketchy spots in between. Pereira hurt Silva bad a couple times in that third round, but Silva was able to survive and get it to decision there. But this should be a very fun fight here, Weezy. We have Alex Pereira, obviously a guy that has a lot of kickboxing experience. The guy that's known for knocking out Israel Adesanya, back in the kickboxing days there. And I think, and he's on the card here with Adesanya. I think I know what they're doing here, Weezy. But yeah, should be a fun fight. One of the best fights on the card.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they had to make this fight because there's no way Alex Pereira has any chance to get into the title if he has to go through a guy like Marvin Vettori or even a Derek Brunson. Somebody that would wrestle him could easily beat him. You give him Sean Strickland because Sean Strickland is just crazy enough to say, yeah, you know what, I'll stand with this guy, because that's Sean Strickland, dude. He's different, the guy is just different. This is a great fight. I can't wait for it. Alex Pereira is 34 years old, you guys. Don't forget that. Sean Strickland is going to be the younger man here by 3 years, despite the fact that Sean Strickland has 22 more pro fights, that he has about 235 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got almost 6 more years almost 8 more years as a pro mixed martial artist, 13 more fights at the UFC level, and about 187 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to finish stats, Pereira has finished 80% of his wins, and he's been finished in his only loss, while Strickland's got a 56% finish rate in 25 career wins, and he's been finished in 1 of 3 career losses. Now, both of these guys put up really good numbers in the striking, but Pereira is showing a 60% striking accuracy, and he's landed 1 knockdown in 2 fights and, over 60% striking defense. But Sean Strickland has been has had a 66% striking defense. And if I'm not mistaken, if you only take his middleweight stats, I think it's bordering on 70% striking defense. Strickland, not much of a wrestler here, and that's the huge red flag. If Strickland was attempting 5 takedowns per fight, I'd have a max bet on him here, because I really think that he could, if he wanted to wrestle Pereira for 3 rounds, he could easily win this fight, because Strickland's striking is so good. And now we know what Pereira is when it comes to striking. Some people call this man the best kickboxer in the world. He's got some amazing wins under his belt as a kickboxer. But this is a different sport, different size gloves, different rules, and takedowns are a part of this sport. So Alex Pereira lost a round to Andreas Mihalidis. Just let that sink in for a minute. I'll repeat it. Pereira lost a round to Andreas Mihalidis, a guy who got drowned by Rinat Fakhretdinov at 170 pounds in the very next fight. Sean Strickland is fighting guys that have an average record of 7 wins and 3.4 losses with a 2.06 win-loss ratio in over 10 UFC fights. There have been guys like Brendan Allen has been afraid to take him down. Sean Strickland is very defensively responsible on the feet. He marches dudes down. He throws a lot of volume. He's very accurate, and he's got a good chin. Pereira's got the power advantage, the size advantage, and nothing else. But that might be all it takes, because Sean Strickland doesn't have a whole lot of concern for his own well-being. We don't see him wrestling nearly as much as we'd like to see him wrestle in certain situations. And that's a big red flag when you're fighting a man named Alex Pereira, whose left hand could potentially kill you.
And I've seen him kill people.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
Thomas Powell. Where is Thomas? Has Thomas Powell out of the hospital yet? Has he woken up yet from LFA 78?
I don't think so.
It was so bad. Even Pat Miletich was whispering into the mic Thomas hasn't gotten up yet. This is not good. That left hand of Pereira is like a bullwhip. A bullwhip. So yeah, I can't wait, man. Sean Strickland is such a baller. He's got no fear. He'll fight anybody. And if I know Sean Strickland, he's probably telling his coaches, no, you know what? I'm going to knock this guy out on the feet. And they're like, Sean, no, please wrestle. But, I don't know if Sean has any concern for his personal well-being. And I can't wait to see this fight.
Yeah, this fight's a fight that I'm not going to be betting on for multiple reasons, but this is probably my favorite fight on the entire card. I guess what makes it tough is, Strickland, the path's there. I mean, I think even on the feet, Strickland's going to have some success, but obviously that's not what you're going to want Strickland to do here. Hold him against the cage. If Andreas Mihalidis can do it for 4 minutes, why can't Sean Strickland go out there and hold Pereira against the cage? And also on top of that, Strickland is a brown belt in BJJ, a very underrated grappler. This guy's grappling is good. It's just like you said, he never chooses to use it. So, if Strickland came out there and fought smart, this is a very winnable matchup. But I'm with you. I feel like Strickland's going to go out there and try to knock out Alex Pereira, and that's a terrifying thing. Alex Pereira is a terrifying individual. He's going to have a height advantage, a reach advantage, and this guy hits extremely hard. I went and watched all his MMA fights and even some of his kickboxing fights, and he's killing people. Some of these guys are taking 5 minutes to even wake up, man. And Sean Strickland, I think Sean Strickland has been knocked out. I want to say he's been knocked out once, right, in the UFC. It was against.
Was it against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos?
Yeah,
was it a crazy capoeira kick or some shit that knocked him out?
Yep, that was it. So, man, I don't know. I feel like this would be much easier if we knew the game plan of Sean Strickland. If I knew that he would make this an MMA fight, I feel like it's a winnable fight. But if he goes out there and strikes with Pereira for 3 rounds, he could very well get caught, man. So, very tough one. And it's lying kind of close here. We have the Pereira as a favorite. He opened up plus 150, now minus 128. Strickland opened up minus 175. He's currently plus 108. The fight goes to decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 175. Let's see. Pereira inside the distance only plus 155. Strickland inside the distance plus 255. Pereira by decision plus 400. Strickland by decision plus 280. Is there anything that is sticking out for you in this fight here, Weezy?
For me, it's the Strickland money line. You guys don't know. I've been talking Brady's ear off for the last 5 days about when am I going to bet Sean Strickland? He's literally better everywhere but the striking, and he's really good in the striking. You know, it's an MMA fight. He's more experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition. He's beaten the better brand of competition. He's a better grappler. He's younger. You know, he's more experienced. And then you just have to worry about that left hand. But I mean, Bruno Silva won a lot of exchanges against this guy. Bruno Silva got his first UFC takedown against Alex Pereira. Man, I just think I think that there could be 3-minute stretches where Sean Strickland is actually winning minutes in the striking. That's how good I think Strickland's striking is. So I'm picking Strickland here. I think he can get it done on the ground via submission or ground and pound. I think he could maybe even hurt Pereira on the feet, but I think he could win here by decision, by submission. And, you know, obviously Pereira with that left hand, I mean, I think his path is knockout. I don't think he's winning a decision against Sean Strickland. Yeah, because he could lose so many minutes on the ground if Sean just chooses to even try to get it there.
Yeah, if it goes to decision, I would lean the Strickland side as well. Any thoughts on this fight? Doesn't go sitting at -175. It's kind of weird. We're getting a nice discount because last fight, Pereira's fight doesn't go as like -800.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's definitely finishing equity here for Sean Strickland as well. If he chooses to wrestle and use his Brazilian jiu-jitsu, he could get a submission. He's very good on the ground. People don't talk about it because he doesn't have to use it. But you know, the way that he marched down one of the division's best kickboxers in Uriah Hall was very impressive. He walked him down that entire first round. He mixed in the grappling for a couple of other rounds. And he almost had him knocked out on the feet too, Brady. You remember that?
Yeah.
He hurt him real bad, put him against the fence, and then shot for a takedown. And then you heard his corner screaming, "No, get back up and knock him out." But he stayed on top of Hall and won the rest of the round down there. So, yeah, I'm leaning Strickland here. I'm probably going to get to a bet on Strickland. I'm rooting for Sean Strickland, and I just can't wait to see this fight.
Yeah, for me, I'm not going to have a bet on this. I'm rooting for a good fight here, Weezy. I can't bet against really either guy. I can't bet against the experience, the MMA experience of Sean Strickland, and I can't bet against this freaking monster in Alex Pereira. So I'm going to sit back and watch this one. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where the line goes, actually. I mean, I saw Strickland on, I think it was FanDuel like yesterday at +100. And I wasn't thinking it'd get much better, but Bet Online currently is +108. So, don't know where the line's going to go, but kind of going to take a look through it throughout the week. Maybe look at some props for this fight. But yeah, should be a very, very fun fight. Cannot wait for it. Move on to the next one. We have Alexander Volkanovski going against Max Holloway. And yeah, should be a good one here. This is going to be their third fight. We have Volkanovski is up 2-0. Volkanovski is 33 years old, 5'6" with a 71-inch reach. Max Holloway, 30 years old, 5'11" with a 69-inch reach. Max Holloway, 3 years younger. It's going to be Max Holloway also with a 5-inch height advantage, and it's going to be Volkanovski with a 2-inch reach advantage. Volkanovski 5-0 in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Jose Aldo, a decision win against Max Holloway. That first fight, I thought it was pretty clear for Volkanovski there. I thought he won it, no questions asked. That second fight, I actually had one of my first max bets on Alexander Volkanovski, and I really thought he lost. But yeah, the game of the win there against Max Holloway again, but that fight was very, very competitive. Really could have went either way. Then he won a decision against Bryan Ortega, and then he won by knockout against the Korean zombie Max Holloway, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Frankie Edgar, a decision loss against both Volkanovski twice, and then a Calvin Kattar decision win, and a Yair Rodriguez decision win. And I think it was on Stat Daggers, Weezy, where I was like, if Yair Rodriguez wins this fight against Max Holloway, I will do something. Was it shave my head bald?
Yeah, it was, or it was like, yeah, I think you might have said you were going to shave your head, or you're going to dye it Phil Hawes blonde or something like that.
Something crazy like that,
dude. And that was I was like, yeah, they kind of went in one ear out the other, because I was like, yeah, Max is going to win this fight. But damn, that was a close fight. I mean, Yair Rodriguez looked great.
Yeah, man. And I mean, this is a fight where I think it's simple as this. If Max Holloway shows up and looks how he did against Calvin Kattar, the best we've ever seen Max Holloway, I think he has a really, really good chance of beating Alexander Volkanovski. if he shows up and looks like he did against Yair Rodriguez, I think Volkanovski wins this fight and wins it pretty easily here. So, yeah, man, this is a fight where I like both guys so much. Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters, but it's so hard to pick against Volkanovski. The guy is just good everywhere. I think I'm going to go with Volkanovski here in the third fight. I know the second was very competitive there. Even scored the second for Holloway, but did not like how Max Holloway looked in his last fight against Yair Rodriguez. And again, like, if he shows up and he looks anything like he did in that matchup, I think Volkanovski kind of runs through him here by decision. So give me Volkanovski as far as a pick goes. Should be a fun fight. I mean, both fights, the first fight, the second fight, are very entertaining. I see people kind of shitting on this fight. I don't see why. I think this fight's gonna be very fun, but I do think Volkanovski wins this fight, makes it 3-0. But it could be competitive. It really could. So we'll see what happens. Weezy, should be a fun fight here.
Absolutely, man. Holloway younger by 3 years, 5 inches taller, 4 more pro fights, about 160 more minutes in the pro cage, 14 more UFC fights, more than twice as much cage time in the UFC, about over 200 more minutes in the UFC cage compared to Volkanovski. Volkanovski the better finisher though, but Holloway the better finisher at the UFC level. Volk's been finishing his only loss. I don't know when that happened or what year it was or what continent it was on, but it's probably not even worth talking about. And, Max Holloway, definitely one of the most durable fighters on the face of the planet. Only been finished once in 29 fights, and it was by submission. Yeah, I mean, the numbers that these guys put up is, they're otherworldly. They both throw a lot more significant strike attempts than their opponents. They both land almost twice as much significant strikes as their opponents. Not much in the way of power, but they're both incredibly durable. Volkanovski, definitely the better wrestler, the guy that's more likely to use the wrestling to win minutes, but we've seen these fights happen twice already. Neither one of these guys is shooting takedowns. They're trying to win minutes on the feet. The strength to schedule numbers are very, very close. Volkanovski's wins are noticeably better, though, in the win-loss ratio, and Volkanovski's win-loss ratio overall noticeably better than Max Holloway. Yeah, man, I'm leaning Volkanovski too, but I don't see how you lay that kind of juice when the last one was a coin flip. The last one was an absolute coin flip, and we know we can't get lazy, Brady, when we talk about rematches, because for every rematch where it looks very much like the last fight, there's usually 2 or 3 where it looks completely different, and you just don't expect it. And maybe one of these guys does get finished this time. Maybe we see Max just go out there and absolutely destroy Volkanovski, or the other way around. But from what I've seen in the past of these guys, I would rather get plus 165 on Holloway than pay minus 190 on Volkanovski, and I think Bootsy agrees.
Yeah, I'm not going to be betting this fight. I'm picking Volkanovski as well to win, but yeah, I can't get to the minus 190. And that was an argument for the Joanna Zhang Weili fight as well. And Zhang Weili came out there like a person possessed and just kicked the crap out of Joanna there. But yeah, I mean, this fight should be close. Max Holloway, this guy throws a ton of volume. He's going to have a height and reach advantage as well. He's very long. I don't know. I like Volkanovski to win the fight, but yeah, we're talking betting here, right? Like, do you really want to lay minus 190 on a fight that probably goes to decision? I mean, you're not going out there and finishing Max Holloway. Holloway's up there with like a Pedro Munhoz in terms of this guy's not getting finished, and he's actually absorbed 1,811 significant strikes, which that has to be the most. I can't think of a fighter off the top of my head that has absorbed any more significant strikes than that. So yeah, I think this goes to decision. I think it's competitive. I lean Volkanovski. You got to worry about the judges. Are the judges favoring control? Are they favoring damage? Are they even watching the fight? Are they on their phones? Are they at the bar with Keith Peterson? Are they smoking some cigs? I don't know what the refs or the judges are doing, but give me Volkanovski as far as a pick. But yeah, betting perspective, it probably would be a dog or pass, right?
Yeah, I think dog or pass for me too, but I think it's really important to mention that Max has had a hard time making weight for a while now, Brady. So I think that if you're on that Max side, you want to see this dude weigh in early, look good, and then the plus money, because I think while while we always say to each other, don't be lazy. It's a rematch. Just don't watch the first fight. We still got to look at how this fight could be different this time around, and that happens a lot. But we do know that Holloway's had problems making weight. So I want to see him look good on that scale. And if he does, because of the fact that we've seen this fight before and because the betting markets will tend to just chase whoever won the last one, that we might be able to get Max Holloway later on in the week after a good weigh-in at plus 180, plus 190 instead of plus 165. So if I'm on the Holloway side, I'm waiting. If I'm on the Volkanovski side, I'd probably just jump in right now at minus 190.
Yeah, and I want to hear the interviews with Max Holloway. I remember the Calvin Kattar fight week. Max Holloway was talking about how he did no sparring. He said that he was doing like sparring on Zoom, and then money started pouring in on Calvin Kattar. And then he came in there and like looked the best he ever had. So I want to hear the interviews with Max Holloway, whether he was doing some sparring or not. Because my goodness, and that Kattar performance was just domination. So. Yep, I agree. I think Volkanovski probably gets this done. Take a look at the weigh-ins for Max Holloway as well. He seems to always look rough, though, right?
He does. He's 30 years old. He's a big, tall featherweight. And, as you get older and older and older, it just gets harder to make that weight. Now Volkanovski's 5'7". So, I don't think we're really going to see Volkanovski have problems making the weight. That's Holloway's problem. And I think that, like I say, if you're on that Holloway side, you want to see this dude make weight and look good before you put your money on him.
Absolutely. Can't wait for that. We do have 261 of you in here. If you all can please leave a like, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy do go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We did surpass the 100 like mark, so neither me or Weezy will be showing up next Sunday with a terrible TJ Brown haircut, mohawk, blonde hair. Don't got to worry about that. We'll be right back with the same haircut as we do now. But we have the main event, Israel Adesanya going against Jared Cannoiner. We have Adesanya, 32 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Jared Cannoiner, 38 years old, 5'11", with a 77-inch reach. A significant tail of the tape advantage for Adesanya here, 6 years younger, and a 5-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Adesanya's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a decision win against Yoel Romero, a knockout win against Paulo Costa, a decision loss to Jan Blachowicz, a decision win against Marvin Vettori, a decision win against Robert Whittaker. As far as Jared Cannoiner is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win against Anderson Silva, a knockout win against Jack Hermanson, a decision loss against Robert Whittaker, decision win against Kelvin Gastelum, and then a knockout win against Derek Brunson. And Jared Cannoiner, 38 years old, so definitely getting up there. This is his probably gonna be his last chance to win a title here, and I feel like he has a lot going against him here against Israel Adesanya. One thing that really sticks out is this is a fight where Adesanya is virtually going to have to worry about no takedown threat. I think that's going to be huge for Adesanya because, this is a guy that has faced 81 takedowns in his entire career. Jared Cannoiner, he's not going to go for takedowns here. I'd be shocked if he did. It would make no sense. I think his fight stays standing for the majority of the time up until it goes to decision or if there is a finish. And at that point, I think the much better striker is going to be Adesanya. I like the length, the height of Adesanya. I think he's much faster as well. I think it's a really, really bad match for Jared Cannoiner, but Jared Cannoiner does have a ton of power. And if he does win, it is probably by knockout. Adesanya has never been knocked out in his entire career. I think Adesanya does get this one done. Outside of a big shot from Jared Cannoiner, it's really hard to see him winning this one. Weezy, how do you feel about the main event here?
Yeah. Jared's 38. Adesanya's got the 3-inch reach advantage, the 5-inch height advantage. He's got more pro fights, about 110 more minutes in the pro cage, similar amount of UFC experience, but 80 more minutes in the UFC cage as well. And Adesanya is a pure striker, and Cannonier is as well, but Cannonier is going to have to close that distance. He's going to be the older man here. And, we see Adesanya being just a master of being able to maintain distance and win minutes on the feet. And we also see that he's very risk averse too. He's not going to just put himself into positions where his opponent is going to be dangerous. So it is a bad matchup for Jared Cannonier. You'd like to know if you're going to pick a guy against Israel Adesanya, you'd like to know that he could win a round or two with the grappling, and we can't count on Cannonier to do that here. He's only got 4 takedown attempts in 13 UFC fights. He's gotten 2 of them, and he's accumulated less than 5% control time for. And Israel Adesanya has been just as indifferent about going for takedowns. 0 takedowns in 12 UFC fights, only 3 takedown attempts in 12 UFC fights. So, yeah, this thing probably stays on the feet. And there, Adesanya is landing more knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. He's got more knockdowns per 15. He's right on par with the accuracy. He throws more volume than his opponents. He lands about 1.3 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do, while for Cannonier, it's about 0.5. Both of these guys striking defense is over 60%, but Adesanya has never been knocked down in 12 UFC fights, while Cannonier's been knocked down 5 times in 13 UFC fights. So just from what we see on the numbers, you've got to like Israel here. And then in the strength of schedule numbers, the ratio is better, the total fights is better, in the wins, the losses, and in the and the overall. So yeah, I like Israel here, but I mean, I can't lay what I have to lay on him in this spot because he's been so low volume lately. He's been so risk averse that, I could see this thing going 5 rounds and somehow Cannonier coming out the other end with a decision because Israel just doesn't do shit. The Whitaker fight, I thought Whitaker won that fight. I don't know about you, dude, but I had money on Israel that night. And I wasn't happy, dude. I felt like I needed a shower after Israel got that decision. I thought Whitaker won that fight. The Vettori performance was pretty good, but he was just stopping takedowns, The Paulo Costa fight, I mean, Paulo might have even been drunk that night. I don't know what was going on there. Yoel almost knocked him out the one time that Israel decided to even try to throw punches. And then he just stayed at range for the rest of the 4 rounds, landing 1 leg kick every 90 seconds. I don't know, man. I wouldn't be laying this juice on Israel. I get it. He's the better striker. He's the better minute winner. And he's got the length, the reach advantage. He's much younger. He's the champion. But I don't want to lay that because Jared Cannoiner is very good in the stand-up as well. And if he walks forward here, this could get really greasy, especially if he walks forward and puts Izzy up against the cage.
Yep. And it's a big price tag here. We have Adesanya opening up minus 300. He's now minus 400. Cannonier opening up plus 250. He is currently plus 300 there, minus 440 on FanDuel. I guess one prop that stuck out to me, Weezy, that I think you can improve that minus 440. So on FanDuel Sportsbook, they have Adesanya at minus 440. I think it's either FanDuel or DraftKings. But so on FanDuel Sportsbook, they have Adesanya money line minus 440, but Adesanya to win by either knockout or decision is only minus 260. Now, what sense does that make?
Yeah, that's how you do it, dude. That's how you find value. Israel Adesanya is not subbing anybody, I mean, I don't even think he could sub to a YouTube channel. You probably have to figure out how to do that. So, yeah. And I didn't even know the line was like this, dude. I seriously thought Izzy was like minus 200, minus 400, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
it's getting
fucking
wider.
chance, dude. I'll be looking at Cannonier for a very, very small bet, but I think that this could be close. I mean, I'm picking Adesanya. I think Adesanya wins by decision here. Potentially could even get a KO. I mean, he's that slick. He's that accurate. He's got great timing. And, he's got that size advantage. But minus 440 on FanDuel? No, man. No.
Yeah, it's definitely up there, man. So, yeah, in terms of these props, like we'll talk more about it tomorrow on the MMA Engine. We'll do a main event deep dive tomorrow before the Die Hard MMA podcast. So check us out there. We'll talk more into detail here. But in terms of the props, Adesanya KO plus 210. Cannonier KO plus 550. The fight ends in KO is plus 120. The fight goes to decision minus 108. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 116. It's kind of tough for me because I feel like if Adesanya wanted to finish Jared Cannoiner, he could. He absolutely could. But there's a lot of fights where he just kind of like stays safe, picks his opponents apart like a Romero fight. Like even in like, I don't know, the Tory fight didn't really try to finish. Against Jan Blachowicz, didn't really try to finish. Against Paulo Costa, he looked like a killer in that fight. But outside of that, against Kelvin Gastelum, he looked like a killer there. But there's a lot of fights where he just doesn't really doesn't really show that killer instinct there. So I don't know. The props are kind of weird for me on this one.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, I think, you kind of got to be, it's dog or pass for me, even though I think Adesanya wins the fight. The line is crazy. And I mean, I'm just not even in the habit of even trying to bet lines like that, because when the favorites minus 400, minus 500, minus 600, then the props are all juiced to the tits too. And it's really hard to find value. And it's like even Shavkat yesterday, right? Minus 170 inside the distance. I mean, how do you lay that? I mean, if Magny doesn't tap with 3 seconds left in the second, you're sitting there holding that minus 170 being like, man, I'm in trouble here. And the win isn't good enough. You got to get it done inside the distance. So these props are going to, especially on the Adesanya side, are not going to be juicy enough.
Yeah, even like Adesanya by decisions plus 125. Then you have to worry about the knockout and the finish. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think anything really sticks out. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was funny though. The Adesanya minus 440 on the money line, but his knockout or decision was like minus 260, which just made no sense to me. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through 12 fights, 12 bangers. And I'm going to kick it to you. Let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week. I know you have a really busy week this week for UFC 276.
Yeah, it's the best card of the year, though. So I guess, this is the week to be busy. You'll be able to find me tomorrow on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for the main event breakdown. And then right after that, I'll be on the Die Hard MMA podcast with my guy Clint, breaking down UFC 276, all the fights. On Tuesday, you'll find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, doing Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. We'll break down all 12 fights on this card from a statistical and tape study perspective, give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, and finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And you can find me right here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show, and every Saturday for the watch along. And the only order of business left, Brady, is for all of us to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 276.
Let us do it. Yeah, thank you all for hanging out. Just over 2 hours here. Perfect timing for a 12-fight card. You guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown and prediction video should be out tomorrow. And then, yeah, catch me on the MMA Engine channel tomorrow on Monday as well. Other than that, back here on Pub Sports Wednesday for the DraftKings show, back on the MMA Engine for the Friday show, and then back on my channel, DFS by the numbers, for the Saturday show, which is Best Bet with me, Uncle Weezy, Narco Cop, who, by the way, had like a 20-unit night last night. Shout out to Narco Cop, and then Eric Betts Fights. Leave a like on the way out, guys. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you very soon. Best of luck for UFC 276. Should be a very